And then at the lumbar spine, we want to go into contralateral side bend by bending away from the side that we're stretching, ipsilateral rotation by rotating toward the side that we're stretching, and we want to make sure that all the movement is coming from the lumbar spine. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the psoas major. Next.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to be your own therapist by demonstrating the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for posture correction, and more specifically, how to correct lower cross syndrome. Before I get on with the exercise, I want to do a quick recap of what exactly lower cross syndrome is and why exactly you should care. And in order to do that, I'm going to need the help of my good friend, Johnny Bones. So Johnny, get over here and turn to the side so everybody can see. With regard to lower cross syndrome, it can present in a couple different ways, but the presentation we're going to be focusing on today is when it presents with anteversion of the pelvis and hyperlordosis in the lumbar spine. But when that happens, you're going to get flexion of the femur or hip, excessive anteversion in the pelvis, and for men, anywhere from 4 to 7 degrees is going to be considered normal. For women, anywhere from 7 to 11 degrees is going to be considered normal. Whenever it goes beyond that range, that's when it's going to be considered dysfunctional. It will also present with hyperlordosis in the lumbar spine, and for that, anywhere from 20 to 40 degrees is going to be considered normal. When it goes beyond that, that's when it's considered hyperlordotic. And it's also going to present with hyperkyphosis in the thoracolumbar spine, so where the lower thoracic spine meets the lumbar spine. If you don't address any of these issues, it can eventually lead to things like low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, and also foot pain. So you would want to address it as soon as possible. And one of the ways in which we can address it would be to do some strengthening exercises for the muscles that are responsible for retroversion of the pelvis. We did those exercises a couple days ago. I'm going to include a link right up over here to the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction to improve lower cross syndrome. But with regard to those exercises, once you've done those, the stretching exercises we're going to be doing today are going to be a terrific complement. And what you would want to do is some myofascial stretching exercises for the muscles that are responsible for anteriorly tilting the pelvis or anteversion of the pelvis. That's what we're going to be doing today. And without further ado, here are the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for posture correction, specifically how to correct lower cross syndrome.
The first myofascial stretching exercise for lower cross syndrome is going to be for the psoas major. For the psoas major, we're going to be in a half kneeling position, meaning as though you're in the bottom position of a lunge. Whatever knee is on the floor, that is going to be the side of the psoas major that you are stretching. I got my right knee on the floor, so I'm stretching my right psoas major. The opposite leg, that's going to be the foot on the floor. Then we want to go into abduction of the femur, and we're going to do that by taking our leg, placing it outside of our body, and then translating our hips over to the side. We want to go into medial rotation by taking our foot and ankle, pressing it outside of our knee, and pressing our ankle away from our body. Then we want to go into retroversion of the pelvis and maximum extension of the hip without losing that retroversion of the pelvis. That's very, very important. At the spine, flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, our chin is tucked in, the crown of our head is pushing up toward the sky, our eyes are looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension with the arms, maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation, and then at the lumbar spine, we want to go into contralateral side bend by bending away from the side that we're stretching, ipsilateral rotation by rotating toward the side that we're stretching, and we want to make sure that all the movement is coming from the lumbar spine. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the psoas major. Next, the second myofascial stretching exercise for lower cross syndrome is going to be for the rectus femoris muscle. For the rectus femoris, once again, we are going to be in a half kneeling position. And once again, the knee that is on the floor, that is going to be the side that we are stretching. So we're going to get into our half kneeling position. Next, we want to go ahead and get into our terminator stance. So our fist down on the floor. With the contralateral arm, you want to go ahead and reach for your ankle. And for the rectus femoris, we want to prioritize driving the heel toward the glute. Once we have the heel toward the glute, we want to bring the heel across toward the midline. And once you feel strong and stable, you're going to go ahead and take your hand and rest it on your thigh. Aside from bringing the knee into maximum flexion, we also want to get maximum retroversion of the pelvis since it does action at the hip as well. Next, what we want to do is if you feel comfortable in this position, you're going to go into maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of shoulder, and then flex the shoulder to the level of the coronal plane, so bicep in line with the ear. You have a flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, your chin is tucked in, crown of the head is pushing up, eyes are looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the rectus femoris muscle. Next, the third myofascial stretching exercise for lower cross syndrome is going to be for the adductor longus. For the adductor longus, once again, we're going to be in a half kneeling position, and once again, the knee that is on the ground is going to be the adductor longus that we are stretching. Once we are in our half kneeling position, what we want to do is we are going to take our contralateral limb and we're going to abduct it, abduct it to 45 degrees. So place it out to the side. Then from this position right over here, what you want to do is get into retroversion of the pelvis, and then to stabilize the scapula, we're going to go into maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of the shoulder, and then we want to go out on a diagonal. So we're going to go into both extension of the hip and abduction of the hip by driving our heel or driving our knee on a 45-degree angle. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the adductor longus. Next, the fourth myofascial stretching exercise for lower cross syndrome is going to be for the adductor brevis. And I'm going to be taking you through two different variations, but the setup, you're going to be in a quadruped position, so your hands and knees. This first one is going to be for the adductor brevis and specifically the superior fibers. To target the superior fibers, we want to drop down to our elbows, and then from this position, we want to go into abduction of the femur. So we're going to spread our knees apart. From this position, what we're going to do is we're going to bring our feet outside of our knees to get into maximum medial rotation of the femurs, and we're going to drive our heels up toward the sky. Then we want to go ahead, drop down to our elbows. We want maximum retroversion of the pelvis by tucking our pelvis underneath us. Then flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, our chin is tucked in, crown of the head is pushing away. Eyes are looking down at the floor tip with the dura mater under tension. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the adductor longus. And more specifically, this is going to be for the superior fibers of the adductor brevis. Next, we are going to be targeting the inferior fibers. If we want to target the inferior fibers, we're going to basically be in the same position, but now we're on our hands, so we're a little bit taller. Next, what we want to do is we're going to maintain the abduction, but we want the feet in line with the knees, so we're going to bring the legs in a little bit more. And then from here, maximum retroversion of the pelvis. We want to push our hips posteriorly. We're keeping a flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, our chin is tucked in, crown of the head is pushing away, eyes are looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the adductor brevis, specifically the inferior fibers. And then last, the fifth and final myofascial stretching exercise for lower cross syndrome is going to be for the latissimus dorsi. For the latissimus dorsi, we are going to be once again in a half kneeling position, so as though you're in the bottom position of a lunge. And once again, the knee that's on the floor, that's the latissimus dorsi that we're stretching. Got my right knee on the floor, so I'm stretching my right lat. From this position right over here, retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar spine, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown of head up, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension with the arms. The contralateral arm, you're going to go into extension of elbow and wrist and rest it on the inner portion of your thigh. With the ipsilateral arm, so the arm that you're stretching, maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of shoulder. Then you want to project your palm forward, and you also want to do a lateral translation of the rib cage. So the thoracic rib cage, you're going to press it out to the side. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the latissimus dorsi muscle. This is the general stretch. If we want to target the distal fibers, what we're going to do, the contralateral arm, we're going to just rest it on our thigh. The ipsilateral arm, we want to go into less flexion and adduction. So we're going to go into a little bit less flexion, and then we want to go into adduction by bringing it across the midline, and we're going to press down on the diagonal. Everything else is exactly the same. Retroversion, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown up, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension. With the thoracic rib cage, we're projecting it out to the side, and then we are down on a downward 45-degree angle, and that is the myofascial stretching exercise for the distal fibers of the latissimus dorsi muscle. And then last, if we want to target the proximal fibers, same position, retroversion, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown up, eyes looking down. With our arm, what we want to do is we're still projecting the thoracic rib cage out to the side. We're going to do a contralateral side bend. We're going to go ahead and flex the arm to the level of the coronal plane, bring the arm into maximum flexion. Then with the contralateral arm, we're going to reach across the elbow and pull across. And this is the myofascial stretching exercise for the latissimus dorsi, and more specifically, the proximal fibers of the latissimus dorsi muscle.
And there you have it. Those were the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for posture correction, specifically how to correct lower cross syndrome. If you have lower cross syndrome, or if you have issues with regard to low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, or foot pain, go ahead and give those exercises a try. And then in terms of the sets and duration for the different stretches, what you would want to do is 3 sets of 30-second holds for each of the different stretches, and you could do them every single day. The reason we're doing them every single day is because we're trying to elicit a postural change. And when we're trying to elicit a postural change, one of the most important things is going to be accumulating time under tension. So if you only do it once a month or once a week, you're not going to be able to see the true benefit. You want to be able to do them every single day, but that's what you want to do for the stretches. And then if you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions down in the comment section. And if you've tried these stretches, go ahead and write your comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought and how exactly are you guys feeling. This coming Monday at 2:00 p.m., we're going to be going over the top 5 ELDOA exercises for posture correction, specifically how to correct lower cross syndrome, because a third problem can be the nerves that supply the information and the signal signals to fire the muscles that are responsible for retroversion of the pelvis, you may have compression or dysfunction at those nerves. So by doing some ELDOAs, it will help to reduce that greatly. And that's what we're going to be doing on Monday at 2 o'clock p.m. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.